Roston, welcome. It's good to have you.
Hey, Matt. It's good to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, so this is, I think Joe Deppa really got a glimpse into how much of a geek I really am, because he reached out to me, a week or two ago and said, hey, would you be interested in recording with Roston? And kind of gave me the backstory. And I was like, absolutely, I would love to do that. So just for everybody's benefit, and because you're going to do a much better job of this than I can, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and telling us not only who you are, but who you're with and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Roston Yu. I'm the general manager for the Philadelphia Fusion. The Philadelphia Fusion are a professional Overwatch team in the Overwatch League. It's a large internationally recognized league where we have teams from, San Francisco to Philadelphia, New York, all the way to like Chengdu, Hangzhou, Seoul, South Korea, and we even have teams in London and Paris. So we kind of just Overwatch is one of the biggest games in the world, and we have players competing at the highest level. And my particular role is kind of everything from managing, building the roster, taking care of the day-to-day operations, and like I have a full coaching staff that does an excellent job teaching them the game. So I'm not an expert in the game, but I kind of take care of pretty much everything outside of the game, I would say.
That is really cool. I'm pretty sure growing up, when everybody asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm pretty sure that the general manager of an esports team probably wasn't on that list, but I don't even know if that list existed when we were growing up. So that's really cool. And thank you for coming in and doing this. I appreciate it. It's kind of important to note that CommScope is a sponsor of Philadelphia Fusion. So, and we have been for, I think, 4 years running now. And of course, I have 1,000 questions about this, but I think I was kind of sitting around yesterday thinking about this, and I thought, okay, the way that gaming has evolved in the world over the past, I would say 10 plus years. Just it's become a different kind of explosion. It used to be this almost taboo kind of thing where, you're sitting there playing video games and like, get off of that stupid game and go outside and do something. But now people are they found a way to make it their career. And I'm really curious when you look at, the players that you pull in, you take things like Twitch and YouTube and all these different streaming platforms. There's a lot of people out there that, would like to do this for a living. How difficult is it to find players?
Well, I guess there's two sides of like kind of facing the audience and kind of becoming like a professional gamer where you're doing it for a living. And I think there's the entertainment side, which is the streaming, which is honestly like really hard in its own way. You have to be, not only do you have to be good enough at the game where it's entertaining to watch, but you also have to be really engaging with your audience on Twitch, talking, or some of the guys that play aren't even that good, but they're so entertaining that it doesn't matter. And it's like, you have to have that balance where people want to just sit there and watch you play. And I think for myself and for like a professional team, you'd be surprised that some of these guys are not the most entertaining guys. These are the guys that are a lot shyer. These are the guys that spend a lot of hours playing very mindful video gaming, where it's like, while maybe you or I, after work, sit down for a couple hours and enjoy playing video games, they play it, full time in the day, and they're not just playing it mindlessly. They're thinking, the last two games, I didn't do this quite well. I really need to start fixing this and that, and like start honing in on certain skill sets, whether it's teamwork or mechanical skill sets, or just understanding the strategy of the game.
It's a really interesting point, because Brian Stewart, our master instructor, he and I have talked about this at length. And there are Twitch streams I'll look at, and the person streaming it has 40, 50,000 viewers. And I'm sitting there scratching my head going, I don't get it. And it took me a long time to get my head wrapped around it, because the dude's a spaz. He's a complete spaz. And he sucks at the game he's playing, and it's exactly what you just said. He has an entertainment value to him to where people tune in to watch that piece of it. And then it hit me really hard, because I was like, I don't stream anything, and if I do, it's usually just so that we have something recorded. But I was like, I'm in that same boat. Like I'm probably a spaz, just not to that level. But I suck at whatever video game I'm playing, but I still like to play them. I mean, multiple times I'll have to call a friend and say, I'm dead and I can't get my body back. Can you come help me? He's like, sure, I'll be right there. So, yeah, it's really interesting. So how did you get into this? How did you kind of fall into this role?
So I guess previously I was with Oracle as a tech company, and I was there for a few years, just doing kind of like management and like kind of like post sales support, really like taking care of kind of like product full like lifeline and making sure our clients are happy. And I actually around my 4 year mark, I had paid off my student loans, and I just said like, you know what, I'm quitting. I'm gonna go into something I'm really passionate about, and like I've always loved esports. I mean, I've been to like I love sports, traditional sports as well, and something about being there at like a live spectacle, and like I really love hearing like crowds cheer. And I think I love video games. Like all my friends love video gaming. So for me, I really wanted to get into esports, but kind of straight out of college, just 5 years before. I'm telling you, there weren't really any paid jobs in esports. So I like, fast forward, 4 years later, I'm here and I'm talking to a few teams. I was actually interviewing at Riot, interviewing at a Blizzard as well. And then one of my friends said, "Hey, my Comcast is starting a Overwatch League team. It's going to be representing Philadelphia, but the first 2 years are going to be in Los Angeles. That's where I'm from." And then he said, you can, I can get you an interview there. And maybe you could talk to the CEO or the president. And I said, I would love to. And then I kind of just hopped in, got on a call with Tucker, our president, and it was crazy because I was in like second round interviews at like Riot and Blizzard, and I think it was one phone call with Tucker, and I was like, "This is it. This is what I want to do," and I was so excited. And I remember he was telling me like, "This is the future. This is where it's gonna be one of the biggest leagues in the all of esports, and it's run by a company that I know it's a legit company. Comcast. I'm not working for some small company that's not gonna take care of the all the corporate side of stuff. So I pretty much on that first phone call I was like, yeah, I'm in. And I think it's now over 4 years later, and I still love the job. I work crazy hours, but it's like it's kind of fake work to me, where it's like I'm hanging out with people that are like-minded. Some of the players and coaches I have are so smart that it freaks me out. I've always been one of the smarter guys in the room when I was growing up, but these guys make me feel like, wow, I'm like just I'm the hardworking, the nice guys in the room now.
It's a good challenge for you. I mean, it's good to be in that position once in a while, I think. So here's something else I'm kind of curious about. It's been really cool to see how the education system has really embraced esports. I think, when you look at this is a whole other discussion, but when you look at the education system that we have, at least within the U.S., there's challenges to it, there's benefits to it, you get good and bad with everything. But they have embraced it, and they've embraced it quite well. How much of that, within your industry, do you see? I mean, is there a lot of discussion that you guys have with K through 12 or even higher learning institutions? Is there kind of a back and forth there?
So I think right now it's where still, I would say, in like the infancy of esports. So to be honest, a lot of there's also like a stigma about age in esports as being like the peak, in your reaction, peak mechanical skill. And I think I'll be completely honest that a lot of the players that we have, spent a lot of their time in middle school and high school kind of honing their craft, and maybe didn't have the best grades in school. So I know that in the past, like when I was growing up, my parents would kill me if I'm not getting good grades and I'm playing video games. But it's like a lot of countries, like especially like South Korea, where there's just like a huge, esports was almost like one of the first scenes ever was like StarCraft back in the day here in South Korea. And I think it's kind of developed in a way where if they're good enough, if they're like, number one on like the ranked leaderboard in the world, or, top 10 in the world, their parents go, you know what? it's your passion. You're incredibly gifted at it. Just go with it. And then we have a lot of my players have GEDs, just finished high school. Some of them are like we had like a handful that went to college for a couple of years, and then some of them went to like incredibly good colleges in their home countries. But um, just because like kind of the opportunity to be the best of the best happens while you're younger, a lot of them take that leap and kind of just go straight into it. It's like kind of similar to like a lot of the pro sports where like you want to, like basketball for example, you want to get out right away and just start. Sometimes when you're playing against the best in the world, you're also honing your craft a lot quicker as well.
Yeah. So I gotta grab my phone because I have to do math real quick because I cannot do math this fast. So 32 times 53, 1,696 people. So my son's 11 and loves playing football. Right now he loves playing baseball, and he was always saying, when I grow up, I'm going to play in the NFL. And I was like, okay. Now, this doesn't take into account how many high school kids are playing football, how many college kids are playing football, how many people are actually football players. That in the reality, there is 1,700 people in the United States out of 350 million that play football. So it's a really hard conversation to have with somebody to say, you're in a position where the odds are extremely stacked against you, because when it comes to professional athletes, I've heard people talk about them as superhumans, and to an extent they are. I mean, their athletic ability is something that I think we marvel at because we don't all have it, right? Yeah. But esports is something that you don't have to be in the best shape. You don't have to be the smartest, the fastest, the biggest. You don't have to be any of those things. You can be anyone, anything, anytime, and still have more skill than the person that is the biggest, the fastest, whatever. And I think that's where it's kind of a nice little flip on that, to where it's kind of like, and I don't, I'm not trying to disparage it by any means, but it's almost like the common man has a shot at something like that. You know what I mean? It's really kind of heartwarming in a way, to where you no longer feel like the underdog. Now, Mr. Superhuman, watch this. I'm going to take you to school, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, agreed. I mean, it's when you look at like LeBron James or something, it's like the guy is not only is like one of the strongest humans, but he's probably one of the fastest humans that exists on the planet as well. And it's like that rare combination, and especially like when you go from from like the best, you could be the best person in your high school and then not even make it into a D1 college, or you could be the best in your high school, be a star in your D1 college and still not make the NFL level, right? And I think those are like extremely tough challenges. But I think interestingly, like pro sports or traditional sports have like a lot of infrastructure at each level, where it's like very obvious, where you can kind of gauge your skill. You can kind of gauge, I think there's like whether it's the physical, the mental, or like some of like the intangible things. And I think for video gaming, it's like, every person can feel like they can at some point be ranked in the best of the best. And then, sometimes, they have that opportunity, and sometimes the stage pressure, or that big shot you get, that pressure gets to you, and then you're not able to perform the same way you were at home. And there's so many factors as well that to me, it's like, while anyone can do it, it's still just as difficult to break it in, especially considering there are probably a lot more kids playing video games than there are, actually, playing basketball or football, right?
Yep. Well, and gaming itself is not as simple and mindless as people make it out to be. I mean, depending on the type of game you're playing, it's actually pretty complex, and there's a lot of thought that has to go into it. I mean, when you look at not only damage and modifiers, and is it additive or multiplicative, and then you look at damage reduction and things like that, there's so many things that go into it that, I mean, I could hand a controller or a mouse and keyboard to one of my friends or my parents or whoever, they just click through it. But there are people that go into like great detail on it to make sure that, and that's what makes them the best. I mean, they really get to that point. So it's not just simple, stupid stuff anymore. It's really not. So they found a way to make it quite challenging.
Absolutely.
So here's my question. I mean, we'll get into the challenges of COVID with this, eventually. I don't know if everybody's sick and tired of that conversation yet or not. But I'm just really curious what that feeling was like the first time you were able to walk into an arena for one of these events. Like, what was that feeling like?
Well, I guess I have a couple. When I was in college still, I just wanted to see just visit one of these championships as more like a spectacle. Like, just I want to see what kind of people show up to this. I want to see how is the crowd loud. I mean, how easy is it to even view the game itself? And I think that was older esports where, to be honest, it wasn't. It was a lot of nerds like myself just hanging out, watching, and just enjoying just some of the top level players play. And then I think it's really evolved. Like when Fusion was at the grand finals in New York for our inaugural season of Overwatch League, I have never like that energy was just as great as I actually I've actually been to a Super Bowl as well, and like I really felt like the energy per person, the noise was even better than the Super Bowl. I thought like the crowd was like, this is like that one event in the year. Like there's not like as many home and away games where these fans get to save their money, go to a game. This was that one huge grand finals where everyone traveled from all over the world. And it was like an out of body experience when they announced our guys on stage, like the same guys I take care of. And I'm seeing one by one, they're getting named like, oh, this player's coming out, from this. So I'm like looking at this kid that, sometimes has trouble doing his own laundry or doing the dishes. And I'm like, this guy has like 100,000 people and more people online just screaming for their name and like cheering them on. And I just think that it's evolved so much and it's just continuing to evolve.
That is awesome. I can't imagine what that feeling had to be like. It's just a culmination of all the work and all the effort, and those guys getting to that point. That's really, really cool. Absolutely. So then you rewind the clock about a year and a couple months, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. Yeah. How much of a challenge has that been for you?
I think it's been quite a challenge, especially for the Overwatch League that was kind of the first league to really adopt that endemic city-based. A lot of the other esports have the org name, and then like wherever you play, it's usually like each league kind of has like a central location. But our league really kind of took a very similar approach as like NFL, where there are like home and away games, and we basically had these things called homestands, where we didn't buy. It wouldn't necessarily just be one home and away team, but it'd be like 3 away teams come visit, and then they all kind of play each other in that same weekend. And like luckily, Fusion had their homestand to start the season, so I got to see like a rowdy Philadelphia crowd rooting for our team. What you don't see in esports a lot is booing the other teams, because everyone's it's kind of like a lot of frenemies. You pretend to hate the other team, but you just love you love some of their players. But when we came out there and we got the loud cheers, when our first opponents came out, they got the loud boos. And I know that scared them quite a bit coming out the stage. And that's like a unique thing. And I think it's awesome that we got to have that. And I think that crowd and fan experience really motivates our players to do what they do. And especially like from everyone, like there's like back in the day, it was like, or early esports, it was like just a team. There's like one coach, a manager, and like 5, 6 guys. And then now it's like we have a whole organization behind it. Everyone's working so hard to kind of put on these events, like put on a huge production. And then when we kind of see it come into fruition, all that hard work really is like almost instantly paid off. You celebrate, hopefully get the wins. We started out with a really strong record last year with the 2-0 start that weekend. And I just remember like all the stress of everything, all that hard work kind of feels like, so worth it, right? And I think COVID really, for all live sports, live entertainment in general, it's really just, it's been really tough on like any live performers. And I think for us, we had the mental challenge of not being able to play in front of fans, but we also had the challenge of no longer being on like a LAN environment where we had to learn how to play. In the past we had like a easy LAN environment where computers are connected directly to each other, and then we had to shift over to an environment where we had to play online, maybe over ping with potential like internet, over the internet. And I think while it was we have to be happy that esports is one of the only live sports that you could play online. You actually could still continue competition while traditional sports really had to. I remember NBA was like the first league to say, we're stopping the games right now. We're holding it off, and we actually we canceled our homestand like pretty much the same week that Adam Silver announced. And I think we're fortunate that we could play online, but it brought its own challenges as well.
So you said something that made me kind of wonder about this. I don't think there are a lot of people, and first of all, I think it's hilarious how we all know that different cities' fans have a different quirk or personality to them. And especially when it comes to Philadelphia, it's a point of pride for them to be like, yeah, we're obnoxious and we're rowdy and it's fine. Or if you go to Buffalo, they're the same way. They're obnoxious and they're rowdy. And I'm an Atlanta Braves fan, so I'm not a Philadelphia Phillies fan. So if there's anybody here that's going to yell at me for that, go for it. But I'll be there forever. But I don't think there's a select amount of human beings that are really well equipped to walk into a packed arena that's loud and they're either cheering or booing and be able to handle that, without complete nervous breakdown kind of thing. Is there things that you find you have to do with your players or the coaches have to do to just kind of help ease their nerves and ease them into that? Or do they kind of go into it and just embrace it like, yeah, man, let's go?
From my experience, I think at least for Overwatch, which is like, I would say it's one of the kind of faster paced games that's out there. And I think for sure we get guys on stage and like, they say, like, hey guys, we try to like laugh a lot. I think like for our team especially, it's like we have like coaches or myself making jokes and everyone's just like, when you laugh it out, you feel a lot better. You have time, but like sometimes there are like technical pauses where you sit there and you just hear the crowd. And I think, every guy will tell me, oh no, I'm not nervous at all, but I see their hands are like shaking and they're like so either they're so excited to play in front of that crowd or they're actually just nervous or anxious. And I think luckily for Overwatch, I do feel like in the first minute or two of the game, it's just so fast paced that like you almost can't pay attention to anything other than the game. So I know that those jitters do come out pretty quickly for at least for our team and a lot of teams. But I think it's in like the way we play, like the first fight in the first map is like very, very important for like the success of like starting your series off, your match off right. And I think trying to get in there and just, I think, manage that. And the more experience they get, obviously, the better they get. So I know that some teams that have younger guys, especially when they have like a bad first series or first map or something, kind of get into their own head and the crowd kind of gets to them. And then some of those guys, it snowballs into the wrong direction because it's really different than like, even in like traditional sports, even in a big high school game, you're going to have a lot of crowd there, right? In a big college game, you're going to hear loud cheering no matter what, right? And I think it's something brand new for like these guys. This is the pro league, and this is probably the first time they're playing in front of like a loud audience.
So when you sit down and talk to players, even if it's players that you're considering bringing onto the team or players that you have now, do they have a distinct understanding of? I think I'm making assumptions here, and you're going to have to correct me on this, and I'm more than happy to have you do that. But when you look at gamers today, right, everybody knows who Ninja is. Everybody knows who, there's probably a plethora of them that I could run through, but people know the big streamers, and they also know the professional leagues. Is there a large distinction with the players between, is there a bit more of, I can't even think of the term I'm trying to use right now. I'm just drawing a blank, but is there a massive distinction for them between being the biggest streamer and playing for a professional esports team?
Yeah, I mean it it is a big difference, actually. I think regardless, either way, it seems really fun. Everyone just thinks, fun in games, but streamers have extremely like rigid schedules and hours, right? In order for their to build a fan base, you have to kind of have a schedule where your audience will know, just like a television show, like when it's on, like where it is, and like because it's live. Like right now, like most of the media we consume is like on demand, like on Netflix or a streaming platform or YouTube. But like streaming is live, so I think knowing when your favorite, when Ninja's on or a guy like Shroud's on or someone and they're just jumping in, I think you do have to have like a strict schedule, and like you have to like I see these guys like honestly burn out like sometimes because it's like they're not used to having to have such a day after day schedule where it's very front stage as well for streamers, right? They're in front of an audience and they have to have their stream persona. And I've met streamers that have a certain persona on the stream that is actually nothing like they are in person. And I'm like, that stuff gets to them. And I know that's really tough. And for the professional gamer in leagues, they have constant, you have individual practice where you always have to stay top of your game mechanically. And then you have team practice where you are kind of working for a lot of hours a day, trying to make sure that you play cohesively as a unit, as a team. And I think both of them are, have pretty long hours, really. And I know that for the audience, though, I know that, a lot of the professional gamers aren't so famous, especially during the season, because it's really hard to hold a regular stream schedule. But I know that a lot of most of the big name streamers are used to be a pro in something. They have that credibility and they have that skill set. And then as they kind of developed, they gone through a lot of interviews and developed a brand, a following, then they start streaming and they start building a bigger audience. And it's kind of like a lot of pro gamers start their career as a professional, and then as they gain their fan base, they can go into streaming after.
Yeah. And it's tough. Burnout's real regardless of what industry you're in, right? I mean, it's something that you really have to work on. And I don't think esports is any different because, look, you take somebody from a different generation that doesn't understand it as clearly, they're going to say, you're just playing video games. What's the problem? Well, I guarantee you, excuse me, you ask that same guy, out of the 40 years that you worked your job, did you ever get frustrated or burn out or tired or exhausted or whatever? And I'm like, well, yeah, absolutely. It's no different. But the difference is now these guys are on stage. They've got to be on all the time. They've got to be grinding through it. What kind of things have you guys looked at to kind of help with that and make sure that burnout doesn't just take over and wear them out?
I think for us, like, I would say we're one of the best orgs at managing burnout. I think we really do listen to the players. I think, it is a lot of hard work, but we try to create like as cliche as it sounds, like a work hard, play hard mentality. And like I think laughter, we have like a lot of guys, like a lot of coaches that are super funny. So it's like, if we have a tough day, we'll make fun of ourselves. If we're having a really good day, we'll make fun of the opponents we're playing. And it's like, we just try to like have fun, vary it up a bit as well. I know like we definitely we try to make sure that they have good break days. And then on the break days to do something fun, like take them out of their regular cycle and like, make them, kind of enjoy whatever circumstance, like whether we're in Los Angeles to go out and eat good food or in Philadelphia, sightseeing. We're out in South Korea this year, so we're eating a lot of Korean barbecue. So it's like, whatever we can do to kind of just really empower the players to feel comfortable working hard, and then like really like giving positive feedback and allowing them to give feedback to the org as well is something that we really do try to do. And I think when we're all working hard together, and we do get an off season as well, so it's like there's time to rest. So I think kind of just managing expectations and listening to the players, and then knowing when players are getting really tired and giving, pumping the brakes a little bit and saying, hey guys, today we're going to call it early. Everyone let's go eat some good food, let's go out or let's watch a movie or something, just take our mind off work. And it is tough to be a pro, I think, because they just, on top of it, these guys know that the careers aren't, just like any professional athlete. The average career length isn't so high at the highest level. So, they want to make the most out of their time. And I think we just try to provide the best support we can. And I think we do just try to find the fun in each day.
Yeah, I mean that's really about all you can do. And it's funny too because you talk about going through this and you start to understand the people that you're working with, and you spend more time with the people you're working with than you do with your family a lot of the time anyways, so you really get a good feel for what's going on there. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on what the future of esports is going to look like, because I think there's only 3 games I know of that are really prevalent within esports, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but Overwatch is definitely a big one. League of Legends is a big one. I think Rocket League is another big one, correct? Yeah. So do you see the game library within esports expanding? Do you see anything, different? I don't know. I guess I'm just curious. What do you think is the future of this thing?
Yeah, so I think it is like very interesting because there's like, the popularity of a game can go up and down depending on the player base, right? Depending on the release. And I think there are like most of the leagues are very like start out organically, very grassroots. And I think it's driven by the fans. And then if there's a demand for it, the leagues grow. I think a lot of the infrastructures are that obviously every game developer wants their game to be a big esport always, right? And I think that in the future we kind of see a lot of genres, like the king of genres. Like I think League of Legends Dota is also very big, which is also that MOBA category, which is like a multiplayer online battle arena where you kind of just have 5 players versus another 5 players, kind of like being like heroes that are like changing the tide of war. And then we have Overwatch, which is the biggest MOBA shooter, which is like a first-person MOBA where you have a bunch of skills as well, unique characters that have different impacts on how to win a fight. And then Rocket League, which is like it's amazing about Rocket League is it's so easy to follow, right? Soccer, soccer with a bunch of fast-moving cars, and then I think there's like the traditional like tactical shooters where it's like Counter-Strike or like Valorant. It's a new game. I think where the future goes is we kind of see certain like League of Legends is so popular because it's been around for so long and it just continues to grow as the game grows. I think it's like we'll kind of start to see big players, big titles that continue to like last, and those titles will just continue to grow and grow as their fan base grows. And like Overwatch 2 is coming out pretty soon next year, so you'll see a bunch of new players playing that game. And then when you have a bunch of new players playing it, a bunch of people will be watching the game as well.
That's a classic Blizzard soon.
Yeah. Soon was supposed to be this year actually, but that's another COVID, delay. But for me on my end, like because of my livelihood and jobs in this league, I'd rather wait and have a good product than rush it and have something where I know I'm not a fan of it, right?
Yes. So that's one thing that I've always, amongst my friend circles and everything. If you ever want a complete, unabashed, unfiltered opinion, talk to the gaming community because they won't pull punches. They won't hold back. They'll tell you what sucks. They'll tell you what doesn't. I mean, it's good and bad, right? I mean, it's kind of like I work in a support organization today, and you have to have thick skin to do that because it can be very thankless at times. But looking at that too, there are some games that have a lot of longevity, right? I mean, you mentioned League of Legends and Overwatch, and you look at the World of Warcrafts and Diablo franchises and StarCraft. I mean, people still talk about StarCraft and StarCraft 2, and when you look at these, how much conversation is happening between the professional esports leagues and the gaming studios to make sure that there's some level of feedback pipeline there that happens. Like, do you guys interact quite often?
We interact pretty often, but I would say not as often as the players want and the league wants. But ultimately, like the game developer is always going to care more that people are playing the game. Like they would rather their majority, the silver and the gold players, enjoy the game and like have the majority of their player base think the game is balanced than worry about the professional, the top 0.1% and saying, in this sniper character in the hands of a god is way too overpowered, right? It's
Yeah.
just completely different, I think. And League of Legends is super lucky that they have like almost like a self-correcting system. They have like a pick and ban system where like if there's a character that is incredibly overpowered in the medium levels of gameplay, that character will be banned and not in the game. However, if there's a character that's way too strong in the highest level, that character will be banned for that. And I think it's kind of like a self-correcting system there, which is one of the nicest things about League of Legends. But for Overwatch, it's we've introduced things like hero pools and hero bans, like kind of similar take on that. It's a little twist, but I think because it's such a team-oriented game, I think League of Legends and a lot of other games have periods of time where it is a pure 1v1 situation, and then a star player versus another star player can kind of have like an actual showdown. In Overwatch, it's a very communicative, very high-paced team game where you literally can't do anything as a player alone. You could do extremely well and have a huge impact, but I think for me, I always compare it to like NFL. Like you could have the best quarterback in the world, but if your O line can't give him any time to throw the ball, or his receivers can't catch the ball, like he's not going to look very good. And I think Overwatch is really similar in that aspect.
Yeah, it's really interesting because gaming studios obviously have that drive to create a game that has that much longevity, right? And I'm a Blizzard fanboy. I have been forever. I played every Diablo game that's been out. I played World of Warcraft. I played all of it. And yes, I know the oldest, deadest, most beaten horse joke ever. We all have phones. I get it. But there are people out there that run these studios that really have a gift for finding the way to get that done. And I think a lot of Blizzard's roots with that was really they were gamers that wanted to make games for gamers, and I think that was a great thing. And I think that's why you see a lot of this longevity in some of these titles, because it's very easy to get sucked into this stuff and lose track of hours of your life because it's a lot of fun. That's really it, right? You want that escape from whatever reality you're in and to be able to sit down and play it. And it's really cool to see stuff like that, but it's even cooler now to see where it is today. Yeah. Professional esports teams is something that I never thought I would see growing up, and here we are, and I think it's amazing. So absolutely.
I'm not even a professional gamer. I have a job in esports and managing professional gamers. Like I think that's something I don't think I would have thought existed. Like even 5 years ago, I was like, what? Someone's job is there's a general manager for this? Like, just as it continues to grow, infrastructures will get better. And I think, especially like the organizations will do a better job, especially like with new games, a new game comes out that is promising, that has a huge fan base, then, these existing organizations that have strong infrastructures can kind of create another team, implement good structure, good coaching, good scheduling, right? And I think that's something that we'll definitely see in the future of esports is like the powerhouse kind of organizations that really show that they know how to run it. And I think for us at Spectacor, Comcast Spectacor, we have the Fusion, but we also have T1, which is one of the most storied, which has like one of the best probably the GOAT of League of Legends in Faker. And I think we're really striving to do things right and kind of make sure that we are that one of those big players for the future of esports.
Well, I'm extremely happy for you. If I was sitting in your shoes, I'd probably pinch myself pretty often just to make sure I knew I was awake and not dreaming. So I think it's awesome what you're doing, and it's amazing to see how well this sport has grown and how big the industry has gotten. And I know we're very proud to be a sponsor of the Philadelphia Fusion, and as always, I'm going to wish you guys all the best in this season and every season upcoming. So I think you guys are going to do great.
Thanks so much, Matt. It's been great to be on, and we love CommScope as well.
Yeah, well, it's been awesome having you. I look forward to seeing more of what you guys are doing, and I'll keep checking in. So absolutely. Thanks for doing this, man. It was great to have you.
All right. Thanks so much for having me on, Matt.
You bet. Anytime. Thanks. See everybody.
Thank you for listening to Ruckcast. If you just found us for the first time, be sure to follow or subscribe on your platform of choice so you can be notified of future episodes. If you have ideas for future episodes or can't find Ruckcast on your favorite platform, contact us at ruckcast@comscope.com. And as always, thanks for listening.